Hey everyone, it's Brian here with a little update on kind of running with arthritis. Is going to be kind of what I'm going to be talking about a little bit more today. So, just a brief background for those that haven't seen my earlier videos. It's been over 10 years that I've been dealing with having a disease called Ankylosing Spondylitis. So it's a form of arthritis, and it's autoimmune disease. And basically, it manifests in seemingly random flare-ups of inflammation. It can be in your SI joints, in your low back, hips for myself. And recently, I've had a lot of issues with my feet, my toes in particular, as well as my Achilles tendons. And so it's been kind of an off and on battle over the last 10 years. And initially, running was really hard on my body because I didn't know what was going on. And I'd try all the kind of prescriptive rest, obviously, and that made things worse. And then go the other end of the spectrum and try and run through the symptoms. And usually, from my experience, the longer I ran, the better things got. But in the days following the run, maybe a week or two later, that's when bigger, more severe flare-ups would occur. So back in 2010, when I was using that kind of method of dealing with it, by the end of the year, I accomplished a lot in terms of running, but I also was in a tremendous amount of pain in the weeks after racing, and was also taking a lot of anti-inflammatories, mainly Advil, but also some muscle relaxants and other painkillers just to be able to keep going. So that was not sustainable. And over the years, I've been seeing rheumatologists. I have a really great rheumatologist now at the St. Joe's Rheumatology Clinic in London. And so discovered cortisone shots, and so a couple years ago I had one of my knees be affected and flared up within a matter of hours. And after having a similar experience a year earlier with my right knee and having the Baker's cyst rupture, if you don't know what that is, you can check it out. It's not a pleasant experience, but basically it took about 2 years for that injury as a result of the Baker's cyst rupturing, not only once but twice, because it happened again 6 weeks after the first time. I definitely didn't want to go through that again. So with the left knee, when it started swelling up, just out of nowhere, I didn't do anything to aggravate it. I got it drained first, took a whole bunch of fluid out of my knee, and then a cortisone shot, and a day or two later I was back to basically 100%. And in the time since, more recently over the last 6 months or so, I've been having a lot of issues with my toes. So I'd have one individual toe swell up, and they call it sausage toe or digititis, where just your toe swells up for no real good explainable reason other than the autoimmune disease. And as a result, it makes walking, definitely running, very difficult. It can cause secondary issues with muscle imbalances and create other injuries as a result. And so I've been very proactive in dealing with those. Done a lot of other kind of, again, traditional treatments, physiotherapy, chiropractic, massage, all those things, and most of those methods tend to aggravate rather than help with those symptoms. And so I've been getting cortisone shot in the specific affected joint, and that seems to clear things up 100% within a day or so, and then I'm back to being able to do everything that I normally can. However, after getting 3 of those toe joints done about a month apart each over the last 6 months, and I've been able to run more consistently than I probably have in several years, and I was feeling really good, really strong. I had a 4th toe be affected about 3-4 weeks ago now, and had the same thing done, and much to my disappointment, didn't do anything. So my hypothesis is that the swelling was not actually in the joint that got injected, but actually underneath, kind of in between the joint and the fat pad on the balls of your ball of your foot. And so if you could imagine putting like a walnut in your shoe and trying to walk on that just behind your toes, and it's really unpleasant. So that was my situation the last few weeks. And a few days ago, after trying everything, I've been meditating every day for the last little over 2 weeks. I've been doing cold showers. I've been doing the Wim Hof breathing method, which I highly recommend. All those things have their own benefits, but they just were unable to move the needle much at all on this particular instance of the arthritis flaring up. So I made the call to my rheumatologist, and after the last couple years of resisting going on a more kind of intense intervention pharmacologically, I gave the green light to go ahead and start taking a drug called Humira. And for those that don't know, Humira is very popular. I think I read somewhere online the other day that it's actually the best-selling drug in the world. So I'm not sure if that's by volume, by profit, by just revenue. I imagine it's probably through revenue because it's a very expensive drug. And it's a biologic, so it works differently from most pharmaceutical drugs, which are molecular medicine. And so the biologics, and I really am trying to do a little bit more research before I start about how it actually works, because that's really important to me to just understand what I'm putting in my body and the effects that it's having. But basically, in lay terms, which is all I really understand at the moment, with this particular drug, is that it changes the way that cells mediate and send messages to each other. So it either disrupts or modulates that function, and has very good outcomes, and it's been around a while. It's been around, I think, 15-20 years, maybe longer, and has very good outcomes for arthritis and other kind of autoimmune things, a lot of gastrointestinal autoimmune issues like Crohn's and colitis. So I'm in the process of getting screened and cleared. There's a couple tests you gotta take before you can start it, like a TB test and a chest x-ray, because it does, think, dial down your immune system to an extent. And so they want to make sure that you don't have anything that could jump up and surprise you once you start taking the drug. So I've gone down that road. I'm going to check it out. My rheumatologist, she's convinced that this is the best course of action for preventing long-term damage due to the inflammation, which I've so far been able to manage reasonably well through just prescription anti-inflammatories such as Celebrex. Used to take a lot of ibuprofen, but Celebrex is a little bit easier on the body, lasts longer, though you need a prescription obviously for that. And I've also had a lot of beneficial effects using medicinal cannabis, and that's mainly helped with my sleep quality and keeping my system strong. And it took a little while to kind of dial in the right dosages, and that's a whole another video altogether, because I personally believe, from a patient point of view as well as a healthcare practitioner point of view, that there are a lot of potential benefits for many people who are taking a lot of other prescription drugs that cannabis can help with. And as long as you're using it for the right kind of reasons and at the right dosages, it can actually give people a lot of their lives back that have been taken away due to long-term pain management drugs and anti-inflammatory drugs and sleep aid drugs and things like that. So that's actually really improved my quality of life, especially my sleep, I would say, over the last 2 or 3 years. So I imagine I'll probably continue with that as well. But the hope is that once I get started on this new drug, that I'll have the flare-ups under control, possibly go into remission, although I don't know if you can call it remission when you're actively taking a medication for it. But at least the outward signs of the disease will be minimized. Now, I haven't said anything about my periodic fever syndrome, which I was dealing with a few years ago. Basically, in a nutshell, another autoimmune issue that arose about 4 years ago was I would get these periodic fevers, usually about 4 to 6 weeks in between episodes. Felt like I was getting the flu, a really bad case of the flu. And yeah, I've been tested for just about every disease under the sun that it could have been, including Lyme disease, malaria, got tested for that 2 or 3 times, all sorts of tropical diseases and things, because I've traveled a fair bit, and of course all the regular routine things, was screened for cancer and all sorts of other things. And at the end of the investigation, it took about 1.5 years, it was just this autoimmune disease, extremely rare, usually just spontaneously resolves, usually only seen in children, so it's kind of even more rare that I've had this begin as an adult. And fortunately for me, there is a treatment. However, it's kind of a mystery why or how it works. Well, the or how it works is actually pretty straightforward. Taking a oral dose of prednisone, and it shuts down the immune response and basically turns the volume down on my immune system, because basically what's happening is my immune system reacts to either something or nothing, but spontaneously will get dialed up and produce all these symptoms, which is the same symptoms as if you're fighting something such as coronavirus. Your immune system steps in and tries to fight it to bring you back to health. However, if your body's fighting something that's not actually there, then you just get all the symptoms, and a lot of fatigue, because it takes a ton of energy for your body to fight, and for your immune system to be that active, and makes you feel like a bag of crap, usually for a few days to a week. So now I take one single kind of high dose of prednisone when I'm in that first day or two feeling of an episode coming on, and it just shuts it right down. So I have found that the prednisone does also help with some of these arthritic flare-ups, and I'm hoping that starting Humira, maybe the periodic fever thing will get toned down as well, if not disappear altogether. So last thing I want to say about this whole experience, and it's been a lot of kind of reflection and thinking about what's best for me, what's best for my family, what's best for my long-term goals and my long-term health, because I could keep doing what I'm doing, kind of ride the roller coaster wave of flare-ups, and I have to say I've been very grateful for having this disease compared to a lot of other people. I've had a lot more ups and good times where I'm able to run marathons, run 100-milers, and be competitive and feel strong. I've had a lot more of those times than I have the feeling desperate and frustrated and demoralized that you can put in so much hard work, training like I have over the last 6 months, and be at the top of your game, and to have it all kind of crumble down in a matter of a few days or weeks due to one of these flare-ups. So I am very grateful for that, and perhaps it's part of why I've been asked to be a bit of a spokesperson, and I share the message of education first and foremost in the arthritis community, that you can have arthritis and live a active, full, not pain-free necessarily all the time, but a managed pain level or flare-ups and all that, and hopefully with this new drug, just a normal life where you have to give yourself a big needle every couple weeks. So Humira is an injected drug. You got to take it every 2 weeks, I believe. It's administered quite similarly as an EpiPen. I think the injector looks basically the same. It's just a different medication instead of epinephrine, which is used for people with anaphylactic allergies, is the Humira drug. And hopefully that's going to work. So yeah, that is my update on my life and running with arthritis, and I'm hoping to get started in the next 2 to 4 weeks, and it can sometimes take 2 weeks. I've read up to 3 months to start seeing the benefits. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, hoping that is a little closer to the 2-week range, and I'll hopefully make some more videos along the way and share my journey, and hopefully spread the message of how best to deal with things like arthritis that seem like they're out of your control. And my best advice and my kind of personal philosophy is to really reflect on what things are within your own control. Focus most of your effort on those things, and the things that are outside of your control, try your best to just let it go, and surrender. And surrender is a word that I've been kind of coming back to again and again over the last few days of making this decision. And I wonder if it's been my ego that's been at the forefront of resisting this step, and that I just need to surrender and go for it and know that it's the best thing for me. On the other hand, like I mentioned before, it's a very expensive drug. It's about $1,800 a dose, so that's every 2 weeks. It's nearly $60,000 a year. So also grateful for medical benefits and our healthcare system and the drug company itself, which does offer many kind of financial assistance programs to patients that are taking the drug to make it more affordable, which is kind of counterintuitive, but because it's a lifelong drug, in many cases, for most people, we'll see how it goes for me. Getting people on this drug stands to provide the company that produces it with a very steady, consistent, long-term revenue stream. So whether it's insurance companies paying for it, the government paying for it, the company subsidizing it, on paper makes their financials look really good, that they're making billions of dollars off this drug. Literally billions of dollars on this single drug. So it's big business for them. So anyway, I've been yammering on here for a while. I hope this video's been informative. My apologies for any ums and ahs and all of that. I'm just going to post it right up. I'm not going to edit it too much. But I will check in again, and hopefully the next updates I'll know a lot more, and maybe you've already have been started this new medication. So please feel free to comment with any questions, any of your own experiences dealing with arthritis, or anything like that. I'd love to be able to answer those questions or give feedback if you want. So have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.